radio voice, P-Brain. This is the Bankster DFS NFL Live Before Lock. Week 5, Doug Shane at Bankster17, Michael Gutta at The Big Gutta. You know what I realized today? You and Sean, both big. Big Gutta, big number 55. Never registered for me. Sean Goodwin, our dirty slot, big number 55, will be joining us in a little bit. We are Bankster DFS, $3.99 per week. Gets you access to all of our content. That would be player pools, articles, Slack chat, live streams, somewhat daily, sometimes when I'm around. And all our content, $3.99 per week. You get it all. Just go over to banksterdfs.com and sign up. It's less than a cup of coffee. Like, why are you not a member yet? Like, so much content with all the college and the EuroLeague, man. EuroLeague. Troy won $700 on freaking EuroLeague this week because Brandon's player pool was ridiculous. Like $700. That's years of memberships at Bankster DFS. So, join us, friends. Join us. Gutta, how's it going, man? What's going down?
I'm good. It's a weird week. It's gonna be a fun one. It's good. Weird means fun and frustrating. Just depends which how fast it happens.
It's a very weird week. It took a while to get where I felt comfortable with a lineup. I think I'm there. We were just talking off air about how. Sorry, I'm updating for people who are like, why is he not paying attention to what he's doing? I'm updating the link in our Slack chat for the members so they know to come in. If you want to go to the YouTube page, if you're not on the YouTube page, if you're watching us on Twitter, go over to the YouTube page because that's where the chats where you can do the commentary. Yeah, it took a while to get where I'm comfortable in cash. We were talking off air. That's what I was saying. That Dalvin Cook news is really important because if Dalvin Cook is out, which right now he's trending towards trying to play, which really sucks. But if Dalvin Cook is out, then we move off of Damian Williams. We move down from Ross Dwelly at tight end to Ricky Seals-Jones, and then we upgrade from Trey Lance to Daniel Jones. I was super locked in on Trey Lance at quarterback this week. But if I can make some moves to move up to Daniel Jones based on the expected roster percentages, I think it makes more sense to do that. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's what I kind of want to. That's what I want to see happen. But it took a while. And tournaments, I feel pretty good about. I had sort of an epiphany on tournaments how I want to play, and we'll get to that in the second section of our after 11 o'clock. It's a weird week. Good. But
I've
got there.
I've been back and forth all week with different cash structures and lineups, and I mean I have kind of like similar like you, kind of like the guys that I want in there, but there's a couple of pieces where I'm back and forth. Quarterback being one of them. It's either a little safety or a leap of faith, but you take a leap of faith elsewhere, but it's not as important as the quarterback spot. It's just it's odd because nobody's really in a, I guess, smash spot, you can say, where you need to use a certain guy. It's, do you want to take the perceived safety higher up or a little more risk lower down, but you need, a lower point output. It's hard. It's a hard decision this week. It really is.
It is. First piece of news just dropped in our Slack chat. Sean just updated. Devonte Parker officially out, and this is an hour before. This is an hour before inactives come out, which I think plays really well. We like Jalen Waddle anyway. I think this plays really well for Mike Gesicki.
Oh, yeah.
Who probably should end up in the pool now. If you're going to spend a tight end, I think Mike Gesicki. I never know how to spell Gesicki. Gesicki? Sure.
I think so, yeah.
And he's 4,200. So he gets – see, this is what's interesting, too. Like, the pool still evolves. Like, the pool's not going anywhere, and the pool's still evolving. And it's important to kind of see – as we get that news, and that's what we're looking at. And that's where this weirdness comes in. Like, just because we have our lineups, this is like the least locked in I've been on a lineup for a while, and so that news means Jalen Waddle is in play. If you're not convinced on Shenault, right? Because Chenault's a core play for me, but at the same price point, you can get Waddle, who kind of burned us last week, but the matchup's fantastic this week. Or Gesicki, if you're tight end's kind of a dumpster fire this week. If you don't want to spend all the way up to Waller, you come down quite a bit. He's pretty inexpensive at $4,200. Mm-hmm. He's cheaper than Dalton. So maybe Gesicki then goes into your cash lineup. I'm spending down a tight end, but not 100% sure. If you guys have questions, those who are watching, if you're here, if you're on the YouTube page, that's where the comments can come in. Drop your comments in the YouTube page. We will put them up on screen, answer your questions, whatever it is you want to do. Just make sure you say hello. Let us know you're here, and we're here to help. So as usual, Gutta, we're going to start with the cash pool. And as you see me continuing to look off to the side, there is football playing, Jets games on. So we don't have to talk. We don't have to try to make a Jets lineup this week. So I just did it for the showdown, of course, like an idiot, as they're down 17-0. Hopefully, no one's taping the game. 17-0. Jets look awful. I'm gonna keep watching though because there's money to be made. I've got my prize picks, and got to get Jamison Crowder. Got to get some catches. Kyle Pitts already hit his prop, and got to get Mike Davis. It's looking good for him to hit his over on the rushing. By the way, $100 deposit bonus, 100%. Deposit match on your first $100 deposit over at Prize Picks, promo code Bankster. We do have those Prize Picks promos running. They ran a really cool one last week too. We got a $25 credit if you made a bet on the second half of like the Monday night game or something. So it was a free bet. I lost it, but I got my $25 back in a promo. So definitely check out Prize Picks. 100% deposit on his first time, up to $100. Okay, Gouda. Now we can look at our cash lineup. I got 4 guys in my pool, but I guess it's 4. It really is a legit 4 players deep this week. I'm not as locked in as I've been. Usually it's Jalen Hurts for me, but he's at that price point now where we actually have to think about it. And it's 7,000 and not the easiest matchup against Carolina. Is it maybe worth spending up the extra 100 for Kyler Murray, or are we going to continue to follow the strategy that has worked for us for the last 2 years, which is spend down at quarterback with a running type quarterback with some floor in a good matchup, and that's Daniel Jones going up against Dallas, who should have the highest roster percentage of any quarterback on the slate, or do you need to save the $300 and you take that chance with Trey Lance and hope he doesn't Justin Fields you and hope he does more Kyler Murray things than Justin Fields things? How does the pool look? Where are you going? What are your thoughts on quarterback this week?
Yeah, well, I mean, for quarterback, like I was mentioning a couple minutes ago, I've been really torn with Hurts, Murray, and Lance, and the way that that I've been able to construct the rosters. Now, when I was building, the big difference on using, really the difference really plays in with in the receiver area. Like with Hurts, Murray, and Lance, the way that I've built it, I've got the same 3 running backs and tight end and defense. So it's pretty like I have pretty much a core locked down. And then it's a matter at the wide receivers where I'm even able to have, one wide receiver be similar in all the lineups. So really it's a wide receiver combo that has really been the difference in all of them, whether it's, one of the mid-range 6,500 guys with a, complete punt, or, 2 guys in the mid-range, or in the case of Lance, it's, it's one of the 6,500 guys and then one of like the higher low-end receivers. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's what you're, with the different quarterbacks, it's can your lineup stay consistent where it's only 1 or 2 possible changes, and if you can kind of have a core like that, well, then it becomes a little easier if it's sort of it basically works down to a 3 versus 3 decision with the quarterback and then 2 receivers, and that's how I've built the 3 cash lineups that I'm contemplating right now. I'm leaning towards the Lance side just because I feel there's better opportunities with the guys that I have and higher built-in floors and all, but there's viability really in all of them, and I think it's going to come down to really what I want to do at quarterback and what I think is going to be the safest route. Because we assume Lance has a built-in rushing floor. And then Murray and Hurts, we know they do, but Murray and Hurts are probably going to be better passers. So what's Trey Lance really going to give us passing wise? San Fran's defense has not been good, so Arizona should put up points on them, and that's going to force Lance likely to throw a lot. And is he going to make the rookie mistakes, or is Shanahan's offense going to be built for him? And that's the one thing. All the rookie quarterbacks have really, really struggled this year, but out of all the rookie quarterbacks, Shanahan is kind of the one coach that's in the class of his own as well with all that. Belichick aside, but the Pats offense is just not good right now. They just don't have any weapons. But, with the other rookie quarterbacks, I mean, Shanahan is far and ahead better than them. So can Lance thrive better in a better offense? And, with the weapons that they do have, even with Kittle out today. So it's a very, very, very interesting call there. And I don't think I even really answered. I'm giving you more of my thought process because
no, that's okay. That's what this is for. That's what we want to hear is the thought process. Like, right? Because if we're just telling people play Trey Lance, like that's not doing anyone a service, like you made so many good points throughout that. I'm going to try to respond to a couple of them because there's so much that I like what you said. Like the first thing that you said was it's not just a 1v1, right? It's not just, do I want to play Trey Lance or Kyler Murray? Like you do that because what changes in your lineup? It's never 1v1. That's been one of our big things this year, and the decision points part of the article, the video that I didn't do this week, but I do most weeks, and we talk about it on the stream every single week. It's never just a 1v1. What else is happening to the rest of your lineup? The other point, forgot the other point that you made. See, this is where I'm getting the coaching. Like, and this is where I'm a little more comfortable with Trey Lance versus where I was with Justin Fields, even though I used Justin Fields on FanDuel that week that he started against Cleveland and was awful. The problem was Matt Nagy didn't do anything to adjust his play calling to the strengths of the field, which is getting outside the pocket, running around, being a creative playmaker, throwing down the field. Like he just had him take a normal drop back and get sacked every single play. Like that's not what Justin Fields should be doing. Shanahan doesn't do that. He caters his offense to the players that he has, and he's a very creative play caller. And I think he's going to put Trey Lance in positions to succeed. If we pull up what Lance did in the half last week, we'll see that they called plays or they ran plays. Now, whether it was scrambles or whether it was designed runs, of course, I can't get it to pull up. There we go. Whether it was, designed runs or whatever, he had 7 touches in one half. And I did not watch every second of that game because I watched Red Zone, but you got to think some of those were designed runs or RPOs, or at least where it wasn't just he got in trouble, he scrambled. But even if it was, he's clearly better at that than Justin Fields is, and he's got a better team surrounding him. And that's in a half of football. And let's think about that first half of the football game. Well, I don't have to think about it. I can pull up the statistics. I'm going to go ahead and guarantee, without even looking, that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't run the ball 7 times. And so Shanahan, he had 0 attempts. So Shanahan did not go with his same old game plan. He saw his quarterback was different, changed the game plan. And I think that's why I feel more comfortable with Lance than I did with Justin Fields. And I'm willing to go back to the rookie performance. And, Arizona's not great against the run. They've been a little susceptible against the pass. I do think Lance is going to get sacked. I don't think he's going to have a high completion percentage. I don't think he'll be overly efficient. But Chelsea had moments when they weren't overly efficient and were just fine for cash. It was Jalen Hurts. And the data won't show it this. I mean, it kind of could. I mean, San Francisco game, he was only, 52% completion, but 21.8 points. I would love that out of Trey Lance. Jalen Hurts last year wasn't an efficient quarterback, but he'd always find a way to hit value. Trey Lance could do the same thing. They're going to fight to get him there. And I feel better about it, but it is a little, there's some concern. So, we're still waiting on the Dalvin Cook news, but it sounds like we're in a similar boat in terms of the quarterbacks we're considering for cash, right? Jalen Hurts is probably not really an option this week because you might as well just either spend up or save the extra 1,000 and go down. It's just he's in that weird zone. So it's Murray or Lance, or if Madison is in my lineup, at least we'll be able to go with Daniel Jones. And all those wonderful things I said about Trey Lance is fine, but Daniel Jones is in a game with like a 53-point total, and the Cowboys have given most points to opposing quarterbacks. Like it's just silly to not go with Daniel Jones in that respect. I think Lance will be fine. I just think Jones has a little more upside. Let's move on to running back. Running back, and folks, if you're here and you want to, I see a whole bunch of people watching. Make sure you throw some comments in the chat box. On YouTube is where the chats. We can see the chats from YouTube, not from Twitter or Facebook. So you definitely want to throw them up on the YouTube page. Running back pool pretty condensed for me. Derrick Henry was a lock for me. $9,000. I think it's $1,000 too cheap for him. AJ Brown's back, which will actually open up the running game, and Derrick Henry generally dominates Jacksonville. Elliott should see a fairly high roster percentage. I've come off him in cash. Like I was pretty locked in, but the second I came off Ezekiel Elliott, my cash lineup came together. to where I loved it. So I was okay pulling off him. Damian Williams should see a whole lot of roster percentage. He should get the majority of the work as long as Khalil Herbert doesn't cut into it. Alexander Madison is in play for me over Williams. Better team, better matchup if Cook is out. And then Leonard Fournette, Miami's been terrible against the run. And talking about cash, Zach came in with the question about GPP, which is the next section. But if you have a question, we'll stop and answer it because we are talking running backs. So let's talk both cash and GPP. Gutta, what do you think about first Zach's question in terms of Damian Williams or Fournette for GPP? And then how do you think that translates into cash and kind of where we go with our cash running backs?
Well, for GPP, this one versus one, I'm going to give you two separate answers. Just raw points, just expectations. I think Fournette's in a better spot than Williams is. There's definitely some positive touchdown regression coming for Tampa Bay backs. They've yet to score a touchdown this year. The odds of that happening for the full season is highly unlikely, and this is Miami's just been atrocious against the run, so I think this is a great spot for Fournette there. Depending on the tournament that you're in or what your build looks like, if you do need more of the less ownership, Damian Williams would be the way to go. If the rest of your build is kind of contrarian and adding the chalk doesn't matter, then it is Fournette. So I think it depends on your build. Neither one's a bad pick, but just simply one versus one, like raw point type of thing. I think Fournette's in the better spot.
I will say Fournette will carry the higher roster percentage. Damian Williams will be pretty high regardless. Either way, though, I think for me the is what are you doing with the rest of your lineup? Do you have room for a run back player? If you have room for a run back player, who are you running back with Damian Williams? Hunter Renfrow? That works for me. Darren Waller? That works for me as well. And for Fournette, are you running back Gesicki? Are you running back Waddle? One of my favorite mini stacks is Fournette, Jalen Waddle this week. So that's where I'd go in a tournament. But again, if you've got the room to go, if you got enough to spend up on Waller, maybe go Damian Williams and Waller. In a vacuum, I think Fournette, I like Fournette a little bit more as well. Get back to thanks for the questions, Zach. If anyone has questions, please head on over to the YouTube page. Bankster DFS is the YouTube. Like, share, subscribe while you're there, and drop your questions in the chat. We will stop and answer all the questions and all the comments. We're very excited to hear from you guys. Gutta, cash wise, where are we at? Where are you at for cash? I know I'm looking at Henry, Williams, Fournette with the Madison if Cook is out instead of Williams. Is that where you're at? Am I missing any players? Like, what's the running back?
No, I'm pretty much all those running backs. I think that if you were building slightly different with a second higher priced back, I think Barkley is a better option than Zeke is from a cash game standpoint. But I'm not using either of them. I'm pretty much locked in with Henry, Williams, and Fournette. And then if Cook is out, Madison provides an interesting dilemma there as well. But we're pretty much locked in on the same running backs there. I don't think there's anybody else to add in to expand it. Now with especially this morning with the news that Mixon is looking like he's going to play, I could have made the argument that Samaje Perine could have been in there at 4,000 because you would have been able to either spend up then on the quarterback or more receiver spots, whatever you would have wanted to do. And, he should have gotten enough work to pay off value for only 4,000, but Mixon's going to play. So, best case for Perine is it's a similar breakdown to what Cook and Madison were last week. And that basically makes both running backs useless.
Yeah, we kind of question came into the chat earlier today in Slack chat, and it was, can we use, Perine with the news that, we're not going to see a ton of work maybe from Mixon. And no, they're both kind of useless to me. Maybe Mixon in a tournament, maybe, but definitely not. No cash for them. Good question, Zach. We'll throw another one up here. I do like this question quite a bit. Why no love for Najee Harris?
Well, it's a tough one. I think that let me pull up his price too. So Najee's one of the guys that I think with his workload and everything, he's at the point that he's basically viable every week, at least from a tournament standpoint. So, guys like, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, that type of crop, we may not talk about them, but they're always going to be viable from a GPP standpoint. And I mean,
Sure.
The issue with Harris is even with the workload, I think for cash, it carries risk because of how bad the Steelers' offensive line is and how bad Ben Roethlisberger has been. Now, a lot of Harris's value is based off of the pass game work and all these checkdowns and everything. But you even see, what Harris has has put up point wise. I mean, 19, on this salary, if he gives you 19 or 21 points, you're just kind of barely getting to the value there. Also, the Cincy game, obviously 19 targets, that's not going to replicate very often.
That's not happening again.
But even last week, he had 7 targets, he caught 6 balls, but only went for 29 yards. I mean, you're talking about literally, the checkdowns of all checkdowns, just so Roethlisberger doesn't take a hit. So it's Harris the volume is getting him there usually for cash, but there's also the point where if he's not getting a touchdown, he may not even get you to value just because of where it's going. Like, even look, he's getting all these rushing attempts, but he only broke 4 yards of carry in one game so far.
Well, I think it's
a little tough.
Part of the issue against Harris too is, at this price point, you've got other guys who think are more cash viable. You've got Ezekiel Elliott as a home favorite in a game against a pretty rough Giants defense, and the usage on Elliott has been really good the last few weeks. Maybe not as much in the pass game as we'd like to see because, Tony Pollard, RB baby. It's a little joke around our house because he's like my number one running back. He's the number one running back in one of my home leagues is Tony Pollard, my running backs. But honestly, Zeke's been getting the work. He gets the inside the 5 work. He does a couple of passes, not as much as he used to. And he's only $100 more than Najee Harris in a game that's got a 50-point total. Barkley is back to being Barkley. He's still underpriced at $7,300. Same game as Zeke. Sees a passing work. There's no receivers for the Giants. And, Gutta alluded to it earlier. Maybe he's pool worthy. I'm not quite there yet in cash to trust him, especially because I don't think I can spend up on 2 running backs. But if you're in that range anyway, I don't see why you wouldn't. And then, if you go down, I think James Robinson's in a much better position to succeed in a game with a higher total. Again, remember the Pittsburgh Steelers game has a total of 39.5, at least as of last check. I'm not sure if the lines moved at all there, but 40 points when the Steelers are 2-point dogs. That will lay well into Najee's receiving total. But when I'm putting a running back, I want a running back that's going to get some rushing game work along with his receiving work. And so, Robinson is an underdog at home in the same spot similarly, but he's been used as a running back a little bit more, inside the 5 a lot more, and he's $900 cheaper. With Najee Harris in a GPP in theory, because he's going to have no roster percentage this week. And, maybe you run him as a mini stack or a single game mini stack with Noah Fant or Tim Patrick as your run back. But even then, I'm mostly avoiding this Pittsburgh game. That's why Deonte Johnson has been moved out of my pool. He was initially in my first look cash lineup. It's not there. There's just this game it could be ugly. I guess that makes it GP worthy because everyone knows it's ugly, but it's not that there's no love for Harris. It's the situation Harris is in. If he was 6,000, I'd be much more interested in him, but $7,000 or $6,900, there's just other guys. Even Eckler at 100. It's just, you find the $700 maybe. And in a tournament, even you go up to Aaron Jones. I know it's $1,000 more. When we get to our tournament section, he's probably my favorite one-off today, or my favorite mini stack is Aaron Jones, Jamar Chase. No one's going to have Aaron Jones. Everyone's going to the Green Bay passing game. So he's the best leverage play on slate. So I got a ton of Aaron Jones. And so, in a game that should have a much higher total, that's where the lack of love is for Najee Harris. It's just not there this week. Big Matt wants to know, and I'll answer this one real quick. Does Cook have to be totally out before he can use Madison and cash? Yes, he has to be out. If Cook is active, I don't want either of those running backs. Some people will tell you that Cook is okay, but if he's playing, but I think, and Madison maybe in a tournament might be useful. Actually, with Cook out, Madison actually makes Madison more attractive in a tournament. But I think to me, no one's on the Minnesota passing game. So one of my other favorite stacks is running, or one-offs, is really Justin Jefferson. Like, I'm running the passing game in tournaments and in cash. I'll use Madison if Cook is out, which is why I'm really interested for this 11:30 inactive list to come out, because this is one of the first times this year that the inactive list could make a huge difference, that I'm expecting it to make a huge difference in my cash lineup. It made a huge difference week 1 when Trey Sermon was ruled out and we all went to Raheem Mostert, and then that ended up beautifully. Somehow we cashed still, so that was fine. I don't think we ended up using Mostert in cash. I think we just pumped
it.
No,
it was a heavy
gosh darn,
heavy tournament play that worked out. Unfortunately, it was Mitchell getting all the points.
Yeah, right. Just the wrong guy. Right.
It worked. It was the perfect play, but it just was the wrong guy.
Yeah, look at what happened last week, guys. He was a little banged up last week, but he was active. So what use was Madison? What did he do for us? Is this come on, computer? Was he cash worthy last week with his 10 carries and no receptions? He wasn't. The week before, when Cook was out, he was fantastic against a really bad Seattle defense. But Detroit's not better than Seattle. Madison is a prime play if Cook is out. He's not playable in cash if Cook is playing. The same way Najee is kind of useless if Nixon is still in the game. So yeah. Let's move on to receiver. Somewhere along the way, my first look and everything, I was like, nah, we're not playing Devonte. I'm not spending up. But man, came around that he ended up being the guy. He's just supposed to be the most widely rostered receiver, and when that's the case, you just don't fade him. We learned that last year. I faded him a week he was supposed to be the most widely rostered receiver, and that's what cost me. It was that week too that Tyler Lockett went off. I remember this huge week, and cash line was up at 190, and I faded both Henry and Adams, and I think I just missed cash by 3 points. We had a monster lineup, but I didn't play the chalk, and it cost me. So I'm not going to do that. When Adams is the chalk, you play him in cash, and then you play Jones in tournaments. That's how you can take advantage of that leverage. This mid-range here is really tough, this DJ Samuel. If you want to spend for Derrick Henry and you want Devon Adams, you're going to struggle to get Moore and Samuel. Moore's matchup is wonderful anyway, and Deebo Samuel has that rookie quarterback. I don't love to stack in cash, although I am with Dwelly, actually, in this case, as long as Cook is playing, because that changes a few things in my lineup. I don't want to stack in cash with a rookie quarterback and a high-priced receiver. I would do it with Rodgers and Adams. I've done that before. That makes some sense. But now it's just not how I roll. Keenan Allen, I think we're going to have a conversation about Keenan Allen, because I think you and I are on a different wavelength on Keenan Allen. I think you're on Deonte Johnson, and I'm completely off him. Shaking your head yes. So we're going to talk about that. Jacoby Myers has the volume. Tyler Boyd has a good matchup, though Tyler Boyd's probably not cash worthy this week. He'll just come right out. See, live editing here, folks, because there's too much going on in Cincinnati. Too many other options, and with Jair Alexander out, that makes Chase a lot more interesting. Renfro, his volume's way too high to be under $5,000. He's a great play this week. Bears terrible against slot receivers, but that can also play well for Waller. Chenault, Tennessee has two quarterbacks who play the slot who give up a perfect passer rating. We saw what Jamison Crowder did last week. We saw what Jacksonville did with Laviska Shenault once right after DJ Chark got injured. Even better matchup this week. Shenault just seems to be in a prime cash spot. Cephas, I just think the volume's going to be there for Cephas. It's been there. He's definitely evolved into the number one wide receiver. You have to go that low. He makes sense. And if you're not going with Adams, Randall Cobb is way more viable in this matchup with Marquez Valdez-Scantling out. I do think we're going to see a lot more Randall Cobb. He's fine. He's back in the flow with this offense. So I do think there's a little bit there. Now, another $4,000 wide receiver. Good. I'll let you handle this question first, and then I will we'll go to your opinion on the rest of the cash pool. Is Kadarius Toney cash viable on volume? Because he's also priced at 4K, so it's a perfect segue right here. How do you feel about Toney? I feel like you like him, but I might be thinking of someone else.
No, I do. I think he's a great tournament play this week, and I do think he's cash viable. Again, at $4,000, he had some real solid usage last week in a game where the Giants were playing from behind a little bit, but they just New Orleans is very tough against the run, so they were forced to pass a little bit more. And Tony was a big part of that. Evan Ingram was kind of getting his feet wet a little bit, even with Galladay having a big day. But now I think it's a little reverse. I think Galladay could have some struggles if if he's matched up with Trayvon Diggs out there. I had the same sentiment with DJ Moore last week, but the Panthers game plan to kind of keep him away from it. And also, too, the Cowboys were up big, so they probably didn't shadow as much either because it didn't matter as much. So Galladay has that little risk to it. But also, too, if the Cowboys are going to be putting up points and Daniel Jones is going to throw 35, 40 times again, I mean, it's going to be spread out a bit. And I think Tony is really – out of the receiver tight end core, I think Tony's going to be really that number 2 option there. And, it's really going to be split amongst Galladay if he's getting open, and then Tony and Barkley. I think there's definitely enough usage there, especially in what should be a high scoring game for Tony to make sense at that 4,000 price point.
1v1, a true 1v1, let's say Devonte Adams is not in the picture for your cash lineup. So it's a true 1v1, same price and everything. Tony, Randall Cobb, who are you playing in cash this week?
I would go Tony.
You're going. Let's bring in Sean and see what he says. He just popped in 30 slot segment. And since we are on the wide receivers, hey, Shawnee, we're having a conversation. Zach wanted to know if Tony's cash viable, and we talked about Kadarius Toney being cash viable. And so I'm going to throw you on the spot right here. 1v1, a true 1v1. Forgetting the Devonte Adams might be in your cash lineup. Pull him out for a second. Are you going Kadarius Toney or Randall Cobb in cash this week?
What a question to start. My God.
I know. We come hard and fast here, buddy.
You got to go. Yeah, you would if that's in a nutshell, that's what you got. You got to go Tony. I mean, I wrote Cobb up, but not cash. Cobb's a GPP play. Tony, I mean, Slayton and Shepard are out. And we can attack Dallas in the slot. And Tony seems to be running from the slot a little bit there. That's in a vacuum. You got to go Tony over Cobb because Tony will get the. And Tony could take one and bust one for a big one, right? I mean, Cobb's good, but Cobb's going to catch 4 or 5 passes for 5 or 6, for 60 yards. Yeah. No, give me Tony.
I just think I think this is an ageism thing. I think me as the old guy and you as the 2 young, you want the younger player. And I'm supporting the old guy. I'm here for the old guy.
Oh,
I think we're around the same age, Sean. So I'm probably wrong there. What's that?
Oh, trust me, I'm an old guy. I'm with you, but
I think we're about the same age, right? We're around the same age.
I'm clicking 48 in a couple of months.
Oh, I'm the young lion. I'm 44 next month. Look at that.
But I don't look at day. Look at day over 42 though, right?
There you go.
I just want to get Gutta's opinion. We were to have a quick argument on Keenan Allen versus Deonte Johnson, and then we'll pull you in for some slot love. And we'll probably get your opinion on this too, Sean. But I teased it, so I got to follow through on it. It's like setting up a table in wrestling. You set it up, you got to put someone through it. Well, I set up the Deonte Johnson Keenan Allen debate, so I got to hear the Deonte Johnson justification from Gutta because he was in my initial build, and I came off him fast with the game total and noodle arm Roethlisberger, and I don't think he can get there. Not compared to Keenan Allen. My philosophy on this is Deonte Johnson's ceiling price should be about 6,500, where Keenan Allen's floor price is about 6,500. I'd rather take the guy at his floor price than take the guy who's at his ceiling price. Tell me why I'm wrong, Gutta, because I've been wrong before.
So I got some fun stats for you. So Deonte Johnson's gotten double-digit targets in 13 of his past 18 games. One of those 5 games was a meaningless Week 17 game, and then 3 of the others that he didn't get double-digit targets, he left the game early because of an injury. When he's gotten double-digit targets, he's averaged 20 points per game. He's averaged 20 points a game when he's gotten these double-digit targets. And he's shown this year as well, even with Roethlisberger's struggles and basically noodle arm these days, he's still got 2 40-yard catches for the year. And he's got touchdown equity. He scored 2 touchdowns. He's gotten 3 red zone targets. So he's getting some of the highest quality looks in football. He doesn't always have the biggest ADOT, but again, if the guy's getting double-digit targets, he's got no drops this year, which was a big issue for him and a big reason why people sort of stayed away. And he's just been doing it. You've got Patrick Surtain, who's been playing really well. He's out today. And, it's just, I think it's one of those spots too that the Steelers offense is not very good, but Deonte Johnson's that safety blanket. He's going to get 12 to 15 targets again. And frankly, I just don't think the Broncos defense is as good as the perception is. I mean, the schedule has been very, very easy for them, and the Ravens didn't put up a lot of points. They pretty much had their way with them last week, especially that the Broncos offense didn't do much. And I think you're going to see kind of a similar type of thing today, where I just think Deonte Johnson just kind of has his way out there.
Like, I'm a Deonte Johnson truther. I have so many rookie cards. I bought them up all last year. I bought them all up last year because I love Deonte Johnson. I really do. But I think the total makes me nervous. The under sub 40 game total, though it's not game is much better. But one of the philosophies I had, there was 1 week last year, we were trying to decide between DeMarcus Robinson and I don't remember, it might have been like Zach Pascal or Michael Pittman or something. And it was a week that Robinson was supposed to be the top wide receiver. I think Hill was out or Watkins was out. I don't remember what had happened, but there was a legit decision to be made. And, it came down. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but I vividly remember saying, when push comes to shove, I'm going with the better quarterback, all things being equal. And Keenan Allen, volume's there, not worried about that. Not as big of a downfield threat. Touchdown equity's not there as much this year because of Mike Williams. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Cleveland's pass defense is as good either. He hasn't had the multiple 20-point games, but we also were paying $9,000 for Keenan Allen last year, and now we're at $6,500. Herbert's a year better. And when push comes, I think that's where we're at. We're at the push to shove portion of this decision for me because I did have Deonte Johnson initial lineup. I'm going with Herbie Derb. I think Justin Herbert's a better quarterback. Look, this Cleveland 1 yard against Chicago is stupid because that was Justin Fields' first start with Nagy. Houston, they gave up 21 points to Houston, and Davis Mills 220 yards isn't great, but it's Davis Mills, or no, that's not Taylor, right? Or is this the game where he got hurt, right? Didn't Taylor get hurt in that game?
Taylor got hurt.
And Taylor was passing on them pretty well in that game. The Minnesota is weird. They started off hot, and I don't know what happened there. And then, obviously Mahomes threw all over them. Herbert, to me, is closer to Mahomes than he is to Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. I just think better quarterback. I agree with what you're saying about the Broncos defense not being as good. They've had a cupcake schedule. But I'd rather pay for the guy at his floor than the guy at his ceiling at the exact same price. And the guy at his floor has the better quarterback. That's where I'm at. And it pains me because I love Deonte Johnson. Let's hear what the wide receiver expert has to say. And then feel free, friends, too, jump in on the chat. What do you guys think? Keenan Allen, Deonte Johnson, where are you guys going with your cash wide receivers? Do you have questions about your wide receivers or any other position? We'll gladly answer them. But Shawnee, let's hear what you got to say. We've made you sit quietly for far too long now. What's your thoughts on this Deonte Johnson versus Keenan Allen debate?
So Cleveland, you know me, I'm a Brown to my boys there, but so Troy Hill has actually played really well in the slot. That game against Houston, Tyrod Taylor, they didn't have their full secondary back. Their full secondary, I believe, is back and has been back the last week. I'd have to double check. But Troy Hill out of the slot has actually played really well. Normally, I would sort of lean where Doug's thinking in terms of go to QB. Ben, that offensive line is horrendous, and Ben is about as mobile as I am in the morning. Patrick Surtain being out, though, that makes me look at Deonte a little. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I'm expecting the Browns to basically run the ball and then run the ball some more. And then after that, they're going to run the ball a little more. and they're going to do everything they can to keep Herbert off the field. I think Deonte's a lock for 10 to 15 targets today. It's a tough one. I mean, I at this point, I gotta lean Deonte. It's not by a lot, but I mean, I think that Cleveland LA game is going to be a banger, but I don't think it's going to be a banger fantasy wise. I mean, I think the Browns will be able to run. If Myles Garrett, I mean, if the Chargers haven't faced a pass rush like the Browns yet, I mean, that Myles Garrett Rashawn Slater matchup is going to be a doozy. If Garrett beats Slater today, it's going to be a tough day for Herbert. If he can keep Garrett off of him, then I mean, these are all, like you said, the story of the questions, right? If Herbert's clean, then Allen should probably do okay. But if the Browns can get to Herbert, I mean, Ben's 2 steps Deonte. Like he's even in the huddle. Like the other receivers are like, shh. So we're gonna go to Deonte.
12 catches, 44 yards for Deonte Johnson today, huh?
Hey, maybe. And also
12 catches for 44 yards.
So, and also too, I think what helps Deonte is, and what might help Deonte too is Juju will be locked down by Bryce Callahan, who's arguably the best, one of the best corners in the NFL, and arguably the best slot corner in the NFL. So if Callahan is taking away one option the entire time, that could open it a little bit too, just out of the lack of a target tree, basically.
I'm officially on an island on this one. My buddy back home that I run my lineups with too, he's very anti Keenan Allen today too. So I'm on an island with Keenan Allen. He has been good to us for years. The volume. I love Deonte. Like I said, big Deonte truther, but good gracious. Oh look, Jets almost ran one down.
Wow. Love me some Keenan.
I know, dude. He was Keenan Allen. He was Keenan Allen Goodwin for a while, man. Like,
right.
So who do we like in the slot today? Who else are we looking at? I know we hit up a lot of receivers today, and we've had a lot of receiver talk. I want to make sure that we get through our slot talk, and I run to tight end and defense before inactives come out. I think it'll be a fun inactive session. I want to get to that. So who do we like? Give us some other guys.
So obviously Visca Chenault for sure down in Jacksonville. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen there. I mean, could Jacksonville walk out of the stadium at halftime to protest Urban Meyer? I mean, craziness is all on the table today for Jacksonville. I'm going to watch that game just to see what might it's just nuts down there. But I love Visca. I think he can eat big time today. And I mean, it's Tennessee, right? Like their pass defense is horrific. And Trevor Lawrence, I mean, that game against Cincinnati looked pretty good for 3/4 of the game. I like Visca, sure.
I like Visca. I mean, I think we all like Visca this week.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, come on. Jacoby Myers. I mean, Doug, you said about Deonte 12 catches and 44 yards. What you meant to say was Myers 12 catches and 44 yards.
It's possible. Do you think he scores a touchdown finally this week? He's never scored a professional touchdown.
Please, this be the week that he finds the end zone because I am way overweight on the field probably with Myers. Like I had pretty much 100% Myers.
I don't have enough Myers.
I grab Myers as my last receiver everywhere. Like I am all in on Myers today. So this would be a great day for him to have his touchdown. Hunter Renfrow.
Third and Renfrow, baby, right?
Renfrow, $4,900 is pushing it a little bit for me. I would have preferred 4,100 or 42. 49.
4,100, he'd be in my cash lineup for sure.
Yeah, 49. I don't know. DK's. I don't know. Maybe DraftKings algorithm is reading the dirty slot or something. I don't know because the slot guys are getting priced up a little bit too much here.
Well, he's another guy. He's 6 catches, 50 yards. Like that's who he is. Like,
but he's
not the downfield.
But he's red zone target. But see, here's the difference. Derek Carr looks for Renfrow in the red zone, and when they get out of the end, towards the end zone, he gets red zone. That's true. That's the key.
So I heard and if you want to give a little more love to Renfrow, I heard a great stat on him this week. Since he's been in the NFL, he has the second most fantasy points per route run against cover 2 defense, which Chicago plays a lot of. and number 1 is Devonte Adams. So it's pretty good company, I would say.
Yeah,
And
I do not have enough. Now I gotta make more lineups. I don't have enough Renfro. I don't have enough Myers. Like they're in the pool. Like I like them, but I'm just not running them in tournaments as much. Maybe it's time to get some third and Renfro here.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd's my next one. I was sort of hesitant at the beginning of the week with Higgins back and Tyler's price, but it looks like Mixon is.
Yeah, I remember you came into the live stream and were very anti-Boyd.
Yeah, you're right. I was a little hostile there.
I'm not hostile.
I only had one coffee. It was a tough day. His matchup is great. He can turn Sullivan. My concern was the targets at his price, right? $5,300. Yeah. He's going to get his targets, but unless he finds the end zone, right. But Mixon's out, right? So Mixon not being there.
No, Mixon.
Well, no, Mixon's not out. Mixon hasn't been ruled out, and he's going to try to play.
He's got a high ankle sprain, doesn't he?
He's going to try to play.
Something not good, but you know what? I think this is the game where Burrow gets unleashed. I think it's a 35-40 pass day for Burrow. I was going that way, assuming Mixon's out, but if he's going to try to play, he's not going to be 100%. It just feels like a week where since he's going to just pass it a ton, it's just going to work that way because especially Green Bay's run defense has actually been solid this year. It hasn't been awful like we've seen the past 2 years. There's I think it's it could just be that game environment where it's like young guy Burrow against the vet Rodgers, and let's put Burrow up there and go 1-on-1 with Rodgers.
Let him sling it. Yeah, Jair Alexander being out too is huge, right? So
yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know so much if they can sneak or not, but I think this game shoots out. I think you're looking at a 42-35, 45-42. I think this is going to be some fireworks. So you definitely want to get stuff in here, and which is why I've come back. I've come back around on Boyd. I'm going to have some Boyd for sure. Just like you said, I think Burrow's going to chuck it. Even if Mixon he's going to try to go. Yes, I don't care. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain. They're not drawing up a lot for him. I think it's almost like a decoy that he'll be back there, and Joe's going to throw it 35 times for sure.
I just made myself a nice Renfro Myers lineup because because you were talking about it, I did it with the Green Bay stack, Green Bay and Cincy stack. There we go. Love it.
Yeah.
You guys talk, I make more lineups. It costs me money.
Hey, that's what we do here at Bankster. Make more lineups, right? I got some Jalen Waddle and Gesicki love down in Miami there. It's ugly. It's ugly. And Devonte Parker is out. So you're not running. They're not running it. Might be actually running it anyway. So now they're playing Tampa. They're even going to.
Are you worried about what happened with Waddle last week, where he just went completely dormant after those first 3 targets? Started off great, 3 targets, 33 yards. It was looking like he was going to pay off in our cash. He was in our cash core, and it just stopped throwing to him. So do we think that will happen this week, or do we feel pretty good now with Parker out and Tampa being so bad against slot receivers?
They have no choice. They're going to have to throw it to somebody. Jalen Waddle basically, and I mentioned it in my article, catches everything. He basically he catches everything thrown to him, right? What is he?
I a lot of Waddle today.
I think it was 82% catch. Sorry, 86. 86. That's top tier in the NFL. If you have an 86%, and that's not on a few targets. He's 21 catches out of 25 targets, I believe, on the season, right?
Yep.
Why would you not throw it to this guy? Gesicki and these guys have got hand. Gesicki's a guy, but I think he's a guy at 4,200 that's going to get 7-8 targets, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you said, they're not running it on Tampa. Their running game is a mess to begin with. They're using Malcolm Brown as their lead guy now. They're not running anything.
No.
Brissett may have to chuck it 45, 50 times in this one. And the Dolphins, didn't they just trade Jakeem Grant also? So, with Parker out, with Fuller out, after Gesicki and Waddle, what's their depth anyway? Who's there? Maybe there's going to be a couple of random guys to get 3 or 4 targets, but there's no reason that each of those guys aren't seeing double-digit targets today, unless the game just goes some really skewed weird way that Brissett ends up throwing it 25 times and it's just one of those weird games. Waddle and Gesicki should easily get double-digit targets.
I wonder if they might. I wonder if they might not move Waddle outside and run Gaskin out of the slot, because I mean, like, who's left on that team to catch passes, right?
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
Gaskin might see a lot of time in the slot. They might move Waddle outside, and run it that way, and then have Malcolm Brown as your Malcolm Brown is part of the reason they brought Malcolm Brown over was because he was a great pass blocking running back. Like, imagine your offensive line is so bad that you prioritize a guy who can pass block, and that's why Malcolm Brown is a lead back. Is because Gaskin couldn't block anything. But Brown can block, and the Miami offensive line is horrific. So Brown's going to be in there all day just for his pass blocking. So Gaskin out of the slot, right? 10 targets there. Yeah. No one Gaskin. That could be a little sneak. That could be one of these when we look back at the podcast. Remember the podcast? Like, we talked about that Miami game. Boom! Look what happened. So yeah,
I'm just looking on DK to even see what other options are there for Miami. I mean, they have Albert Wilson priced at 3,100, and then you got Preston Williams and Matt Collins at 3,000. I mean, those guys aren't doing anything.
No, I honestly, I'm sort of actually talking myself into I'm going to pull a Doug here. I'm going to add a line. I think they might run Gaskin out of the slot today. Like, I think Malcolm Brown is going to be starting, and they're going to run Gaskin because they got nothing else. You're not throwing at Mac Hollins.
Got to do something with Gaskin. He's been terrible.
He's been horrific.
Now,
Sean, either I'm crazy old guy, or we're going to be like, holy shit, Gaskin had 12 targets.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but it's weird. They were outplayed by Indy last week, and I mean, Gaskin only got 2 touches. He didn't get any targets. I think he only had like a 20% snap share, like really low last week. I mean, granted, with the injuries, I mean, they may be desperate enough to use him. I don't know if there's something else going on. If he's really in the doghouse, if they don't like him, they don't want to use him, or if it'll be one of those things they'll be forced to. It's a tough call. I mean, and where some other running backs are just priced at that area. Like, I mean, if honestly, if we're going off of that premise that of the injury and they need to use him in the passing game and all that, well, then why not just use J.D. McKissic? I mean, Antonio Gibson is playing through a friggin' fractured shin. Washington has nobody in the pass game either after McLaurin and maybe Curtis Samuel. And New Orleans, you can't run on New Orleans. So we know they're not throwing it to Gibson. So I think I'd rather use J.D. McKissic from that same premise that we would use Myles Gaskin. And it's not like McKissic's can carry high ownership anyway. So you're getting the same, contrarian angle. But we know McKissic has a role. We know that pass role is there for McKissic. And that's what we're kind of hoping for from Gaskin. I would just use McKissic in that same vein then.
You got McKissic, McNichols, and Fournette at that same price point.
Full disclosure, I was absolutely not saying anybody should play. We're throwing theories out there that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, of course.
Now that being said, when Gaskin does score a touchdown today on a screen pass or something,
then you're a genius, man. Right? That's how it works out.
If
this is how it happens. We say something on the stream and then it happens. Like, look at Jody Fortson. Was it last week? The week before? I mean, it was last week, right? Yeah.
If not,
we call it all these random touchdowns. Week 1, Chris Manhurst scored a touchdown. We talked about him on the stream. It's ridiculous. John Ross last week with this touchdown called him on the stream. Shawnee, before we head out, because we need to get you have another player because I see your finger went up, but I was going to ask, Brandon's been waiting on a question, and then I'll let you give your last play because we got to get to an actives in a couple minutes. Who's your cash quarterback this week?
Oh, Jalen Hurts.
You're going back to Jalen Hurts. It's $7K. He hasn't been priced much for you?
No, you know what? Honestly, Carolina gets shredded on the ground. I think he's going to run his way to value today against Carolina. I don't know if they can. I don't think he can really pass in Carolina. I think Jalen Hurts runs his way to value personally.
Wouldn't that be a thing? The week I get off Jalen Hurts and he just keeps cashing for people.
Well, I mean,
I'm running Trey Lance right now. right now I'm running Trey Lance, but if Dalvin Cook is out, I'm going to switch down to Madison and have money to go up to Daniel Jones. That's kind of where I'm at. Good. I think you said you were leaning Trey Lance, but there are still Kyler Murray possibilities. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got 3 lineups in my queue. I've got one with Lance, one with Hurts, and one with Murray. So I'm right now my lean is Lance, but I like the way all 3 lineups were built. So it's the where am I comfortable at with quarterback and where that leads me. I'm legitimately torn. I really don't know which way.
It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable not having a cash lineup settled this late in the game. Usually we're pretty locked in by Friday nights. And so, Sunday morning we're just like having the same lineup. We're like, oh, there we are. And this week,
yeah.
I mean, I need to see inactives to finish my cash lineup. Like, that's crazy. And you're like, I've got 3 lineups. And Sean, you seem pretty confident in your lineup, which is good. Like, you want to be like cash. You want to be confident, especially, after the last couple of weeks when things didn't work out well. And so we want to get back on that horse and, build the bankroll up. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling this week. I like it. I feel good about cash, but it's like it took a while to get there. And we're still not there. We need to see this.
Uncomfortable is good. I'll get out of you guys' way. My last guy was Randall Cobb in the slot. Dirty slot play of the week is Mr. aforementioned Randall Cobb. I think, he had 3 targets, I think, the first 4 weeks. And then Mr. Rogers made a comment about, you know what, I'm going to get my boy the ball a little bit here, a little bit more. Now, Valdez Scantling was out last week, sort of led to it. So, if he's out this week, then I love Cobb. If he's back,
he's on IR. MVS is on IR.
Oh, perfect. Love Randall Cobb.
So.
Lazard went out wide last week, and Cobb took over the slot, so that's perfect. And because I think Rodgers will have to chuck it a bunch too in this game. I think Joey in Cincinnati will force Rodgers to the air, and so I like Randall Cobb. That basically little to no ownership coming out of the dirty slot.
Like it in tournaments, definitely like it in tournaments. If I'm running a Green Bay stack, except for the one I just made. Otherwise, my Green Bay stacks all have Adams and Cobb in them because I think they make a lot of sense. All right, Shawnee.
Cobb,
what's that?
I think I I think Cobb's a great cheap run back too. If you're going to go like a Higgins Chase, Burrow
sure.
over,
for sure.
Back stack. Anyway,
love it. All
right, boys. Good luck, everybody, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Sean. He will be in Slack chat, and Sean's real season starts on Tuesday. NHL goes live. You can get his work. We're along with everything we do. $3.99 a week. BanksterDFS.com. Sean has been killing the preseason lineups pretty much every day, pools every day, and now Tuesday goes live with Tampa and someone, and then I know the Kraken take on my Golden Knights.
Yeah, Kraken Vegas. Yeah, the Kraken are heading down into your Vegas there. And Tampa Bay. It's a 2-game slate. I won so many tickets in preseason, and I got to use them on a 2-game slate. Pittsburgh is playing in Tampa Bay, but
there you go. They got the big slate, 5-game slate, I think Wednesday, and then we're off and running with NHL. You can catch Sean's work, BanksterDFS.com. Shawnee, thank you so much, buddy.
Cheers.
Later, man. All right, let's quickly cover up some cash tight ends. We've been alluding to it all day. It's Dwelly or Ricky Seals-Jones if you're spending down. Gesicki makes some sense if you're spending up a little bit. I don't think we're going all the way up to Waller. I just don't see where the money is there. I don't see where you can get the money. I like Zach Ertz a lot, but he's sort of in a no man's land. Evan Ingram, if you got 3,200, I think you'll see a ton of targets. But the Giants are spreading out their targets, though he has seen 6 each of the last 2 weeks. But Ingram is like Syracuse basketball, man. Always underperforming when they should be doing all right. Good matchups, and they just never quite fulfill. So I had some concerns there. Are you looking elsewhere at tight end at all, as we're 1 minute away from the shit hitting the fans with the inactives? No, you're good with tight end. Right now, for me, it's Dwelly, but I could be wrong. It could be Seals-Jones when all things end up.
It's either or. I have Dwelly right now. Either way, you're not looking for a lot. They both should have similar snap shares, I would presume. Seals-Jones didn't leave the field last week when Logan Thomas got hurt, and I think Seals-Jones had the second most targets when he was on the field. So, I mean, there's definitely. I mean, I remember Seals Jones over a couple of years when he first started with Arizona. I mean, the guy was like oozing talent. There was a lot of talk around him and all. And he just never put it together. So there's talent there, but I mean, he's obviously missing something that he never evolved into a starter or anything. But listen, I think when you're punting tight end, you're down at that price level. I mean, really at that price level, every guy's the same. I mean,
you want routes to be run, you want snaps to be there, and you want not Tommy Tremble 20 freaking routes and 0 targets. That's what we don't want. I don't think you'll get that out of Dwelly or Seals Jones. I think you'll get a ton of routes. I think they'll get some targets. Though I do think the reason I'm on Dwelly over Ricky Seals right now is because I do think the Seals Jones with Logan Thomas out, I think it helps Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries more than it helps Seals Jones. Obviously, it helps Seals Jones because he wasn't playing otherwise, but I do think you'll see some of those go to the other guys. And then defense spending down. I like the Chargers a lot. I'm actually running a lot of Chargers in tournaments because I can get up there, but otherwise, I like the football team. Yeah. And someone up in Slack today, maybe the Houston Texans at $2,300 going up against a Patriots team that's missing 4/5 of their offensive line. I think Houston's more of a tournament play because the football team has way more talent. And at some point, Jameis is going to start doing Jameis things, and I'm here for all of that. This could be the week. Tons of pressure from Washington.
Jameis has been doing Jameis things. It just hasn't gone against them yet. Like that when they were in New England, that ridiculous throw that somehow was caught for a touchdown. Like that, that should have been intercepted all day. That stuff's not going to keep going his way.
Exactly. All right, let's look. Some inactives are starting to come out. Nick Westbrook is out.
Oh,
Josh Reynolds should get some work.
Dalvin Cook is inactive.
Dalvin Cook's inactive?
Yep.
Hell yes. All right, let's see. Gio Bernard is active. I'm still using Fournette. Okay, with the Dalvin Cook news, Dalvin Cook being inactive means Alexander Madison is sliding into my cash lineup over Damian Williams. I'm going down to Ricky Seals Jones after I just talked myself into Dwelly. And I think I'm coming off Trey Lance in cash. I'm going to Daniel Jones in cash. I think that's where we're going. I think it just makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to see if there's any other news that matters. I can't believe he's inactive. Like, it's the right decision. And I hate making switches this late, but I don't consider it a tinker because we had a contingency plan in place and we talked about it yesterday in Slack. And it's not like, because I don't like to tinker. I do tinker. I shouldn't tinker. That's really what it is. I like to tinker too much. I think you have to go with them. JJ Taylor is out for the Patriots. This is more for season-long people. Brandon Bolden's going to get all the passing game work he can handle. He's starting for me in that league where I have no running backs. He is starting alongside Tony Pollard. This is where I'm at. 3rd place in the league, though, so go figure. Chester Rogers now an option. Thanks, Shawnee. Chester Rogers, definitely an option for the Titans. I like Josh Reynolds in that spot, but Rogers was getting the targets earlier in the year when Reynolds wasn't playing. I do like both those guys. I do have some Josh Reynolds in tournaments already. I expected Westbrook to be out.
So,
Mixon active.
I don't know if we touched on it earlier, but what is your thought process now that you'd rather use Daniel Jones over Trey Lance?
Better matchup. Higher ceiling, I think. Higher floor for sure. Daniel Jones looks like a different quarterback right now this year. The thing that was holding the Giants back was not their lack of talent, because the Giants actually have a really talented roster. It was Daniel Jones. Thank you, Big Matt. Daniel Jones was the thing holding them back, and he's played great so far this year. Maybe it just took a couple of years for him to evolve. The same way it took a couple of years for Carson Palmer to evolve back when he was, way back, and they let him sit for a while, and it took a couple of years for him to figure it all out. Jones has been over 22 fantasy points in 3 out of 4 weeks. He's got, great matchup here, and we're going to follow the roster percentage. I thought Trey Lance would be the clear chalk at quarterback. He's not. Daniel Jones is the chalk quarterback this week. Why am I fighting the chalk? I fought the chalk way too many weeks in a row. I love Lance's potential and his coaching, but I mean, right? You follow. I think we have to follow the roster percentage. We follow the chalk, and you take Daniel Jones, a better quarterback at this point in his career. Daniel Jones is the safer, better quarterback, and in cash we want safe. Trey Lance was there because of his rushing floor, but Daniel Jones rushes the ball plenty. I thought we'd need the money. We didn't have a natural pivot, but now we do. And I appreciate Big Matt coming in there with the today is an adjustment, not a tinker, because we did have the contingency plan in place. So I don't consider it a last minute, ooh, let's do this without any thought. The thought was there. We knew the moves we'd make, or I knew the moves I'd make. And I think I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. And I'm going to cry when Trey Lance has a huge game. But, I kind of like Seals Jones anyway. And hopefully the math worked out. Hopefully I know how to do. I did teach math for a lot of years, so hopefully I know what I'm doing. Hey, there it is. Math works out. So there we go. We're locked in here. I'm gonna have to check my FanDuel lineup in a few minutes. I don't want to do that right now because DraftKings is a lot easier to change. I just think it makes sense. Mixon active, which means he's useless. Perine's useless. Madison is, the cool thing about Madison too is he automatically makes because everyone's going to Madison now as their spend down at running back, which means Leonard Fournette in tournaments becomes more viable. Damian Williams becomes way more viable in tournaments. Yep. And that Minnesota passing game is huge in tournaments. I was talking about Daniel Jones before, and I pulled up some stats, and I realized I did not have I don't think I had that on there. So I'll pull that back here. Volume's there for Jones. He's had, 32 or more attempts, 22 or more completions. He's rushed the ball at least 4 times in every game. He has 27 or more rushing yards in every game. Only 1 pick, has only lost 1 fumble, which is huge for him because he has 40 turnovers the last 2 years. Price is still down, and he's done it every single week, except for the week we used him in cash. Which sounds about right. But, the week we used a rookie in cash, he ended up getting us garbage with Justin Fields. At least on FanDuel, I used him. So it's like, I think it makes some sense. Cortland Sutton is active.
Yeah.
Where does this change your thoughts at all in cash? Are you able now to spend up? Are you looking to spend up? Is your lineup configured in a way that you can make a change now at quarterback and not use Trey Lance?
Yeah, I can make similar moves and go the Daniel Jones route. Cook being inactive wouldn't change anything on my right, where am I? Yeah, with the Hurts lineup and the Kyler Murray lineup, 3. Yeah, Madison being in there over Cook wouldn't change anything in my other spots. I would change Williams to Madison, but I wouldn't be able to spend up for other guys or make moves to really change the overall core of the lineup. The only one would be Lance, where I'd be in a similar spot to use Daniel Jones instead.
I think because it's not just Madison. It's not just the Daniel Jones move. I think Madison's a better play than Damian Williams. Just a better offense, better situation. So it really is a true 2v2. It's not a 1v1. And it's not that Daniel Jones better than Trey Lance. It's I can get them both now, and I think the move makes some sense. I suppose I could keep. Trey Lance and then upgrade somewhere else, but I like the rest of my lineup, so that's kind of where it went. Betty wants to know if Swift is playing. Yes, he is active today. No major inactives for the Detroit Lions. They actually made Jermar Jefferson inactive, which means he's their 3rd running back. So if they then, or 4th running back, if they didn't expect Swift to get a lot of action, they would have played Jermar Jefferson even with Swift active. So I think that says a lot about where they feel he's at. He's been questionable every week this year. Him being questionable doesn't do much at all. He'll play. He's been questionable every week this year.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what to do with my FanDuel lineup because I've got Damian Williams in there and I need to save $700 and I don't have it. That ain't gonna happen. Anyway, sorry, your point you were making.
Oh no, I was just saying, even with these questionable tags and stuff, with the rule change a couple of years ago that they got rid of probable, or it's really just questionable or out now. It's so fluid. If guys are practicing but they're listed as questionable, there is no real talk about it. They're usually gonna play. It's just we have to designate them because they're a little banged up.
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself so I didn't accidentally interrupt you because I have to control myself. Yeah, I think the questionable tag has really made some it's kind of ruined fantasy in a little bit because probable was great. Now you don't ever know. I don't know why the NFL would do that. It was stupid.
Yeah. No idea.
Any other inactives we're seeing? I'm going to have to fix this lineup later. Any other inactives we're seeing? I don't think there's anything.
No real big news or anything.
Ramondre Stevenson is active, but he's not going to affect the Brandon Bolden comment we were making earlier. It'll only hurt Damian Harris, who I wouldn't play this week with forfeits of the Patriots offensive line out. I think Bolden's actually the play. He's tournament. What's Bolden cost? Like, that's an interesting question here, since we'll pull that up.
Probably either the minimum or just above, I would imagine.
Bolden, Stoneman, $4,000. He had a pretty decent week last week, all things considered. Only one carry, but 6 targets, 11 points. He pretty much did the James White thing. And with J.J. Taylor out this week, tournament option.
And he got the 4 targets when James White got hurt and came out of the game.
Yeah, and he's played in that offense forever. He's bounced around the league, but he always comes back to New England, and he knows the offense. Belichick really trusts him. This could be the Bolden week. There's always a Brandon Bolden week. This could be that week. Cam Sims is inactive, and Jay Sternberger's inactive, which bodes well for Curtis Samuel and Ricky Seals-Jones. Antonio Gibson is active, but I'm not running to use Antonio Gibson this week. I don't. If he's just been banged up a lot. Not a big fan there. All right, let's see. Big Matt question here. What do we got, Big Matt? Deonte Johnson, Trevor Lawrence projections look almost identical, so why not go with a bit more experienced quarterback in cash like Jones for 200? Well, we are. We're not using Trevor Lawrence in cash. Definitely not. We'd actually had a talk on the live stream this week. We popped into the live stream. I think it was Brunch with Bankster, which was 11:15 on Thursday. We had a talk about on Facebook. If you're a member of Bankster DFS, you get that for free. Head over to Facebook and join us. We talked about Trevor Lawrence and why we don't like Trevor Lawrence for cash. He just hasn't done anything with the volume. Even in his one game when he had 51 attempts, he still only put up 25 fantasy points. I like the weapons, and I actually think he's pretty good in tournaments. I've got a Trevor Lawrence lineup in tournaments with Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault, because I think it's a fun way to play that game a little bit. And you run it back with Derrick Henry, or you can run it back with A.J. Brown and Josh Reynolds or Chester Rogers if you want to get really crazy. But Lawrence does run a little bit. There's really there's no argument for Lawrence in cash for me. I think he's tournament only play, and even then, he just hasn't done anything. And yeah, you're right, Matt. Daniel Jones, definitely the way to go. I'd rather use, for cash purposes, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, Trey Lance. I mean, all those guys. Probably Mac Jones, all of them before I'd use Trevor Lawrence in cash. Any argument towards Trevor Lawrence, Gutta?
Not for cash, no. Nope. Not.
Tournament, though? How do you feel in tournaments?
I think he's a solid play. I mean,
yeah.
Tennessee's defense just is non-existent right now. I mean, their secondary is terrible, and we saw the Jets and Zach Wilson pretty much have their way last week. And Jaguars' pass offense is pretty easy. It's going to be Shenault and Jones, and Lawrence definitely has a chance this week.
Yeah, I like him as well in tournaments. Let's look at that pass defense here for Tennessee. They really haven't given up a ton of yards passing, but just giving up fantasy points. It's like Zach Wilson, great game. Russell Wilson had a good game. Kyler Murray had a good game. I don't count the Indy passing game because I don't like Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is trash.
I mean,
I'm sure he's a wonderful human being, but he's a trash.
I mean, it's that type of week for tournaments, right? There's no. I mean, there's chalk, but there's no real I guess the Cowboys Giants is the chalk stack, but outside of that, there's really no chalk stack or area where you say, all right, this is where everybody's going to, so we know how to pivot off of it. It's more lower, the chalk percentages are much lower, from the how high they're getting. So it's a lot of uncomfortable decisions this week, whether it's a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence in a good spot or or making an uncomfortable decision with the secondary pieces. Like, all right, if I'm stacking the Giants and Cowboys, how am I really going to differentiate it? Like, all right, I'm using Dak, Lamb, Cooper, and I'm bringing it back with Tony. All right, well, what am I doing at running backs and tight end and flex to really differentiate this lineup? Where am I going? What am I doing that's going to help me be different from the other, Cowboy stacks of those same four guys that are going to be, neck and neck with me?
I do think there are some pivot points that make some sense this week. I agree what you're saying in terms of the come on, V, get in there. There we go. I do think there's some pivot points that we can play off of some of the chalk, like, Devonte Adams is chalk. So in tournaments, run Aaron Jones as a one-off. Like if I'm stacking Green Bay, I'm not going to stack Aaron Rodgers with Aaron Jones. But if I'm running a different stack, like a Cowboy stack, or if I'm running Jacksonville stack or a cheap stack, a San Francisco stack, which I do think becomes, somewhat tournament viable if we're not using Trey Lance and cash. I do think that if I'm running a different stack, then I've got I have so much Aaron Jones, Jamar Chase today because that's just pivoting off the chalk of Devonte Adams. And if Aaron Jones, Devonte Adams can go 12 for 140, but get tackled at the 1, that happens a lot to receive. It's kind of Calvin Johnson's calling card, and so it happens. And then they just run the ball in with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones could have 80 total yards, but 3 touchdowns. If he adds a couple of catches to that, he's pushing 30 fantasy points. And no one's going to have him. He's going to be fairly low percentage. DeAndre Hopkins right now is sitting at projected 2%. Like, okay, so use DeAndre Hopkins. There's use a cover stacker. Use DeAndre Hopkins as a run back on a different stack. And Dwelly and Debo are fine at that point. If you're using a chalkier player like a Debo or Dwelly, run Hopkins. Kamara is going to be pretty chalky. He's got one of the higher roster percentages for running backs. I don't trust him in cash, but in tournaments, running back with a Curtis Samuel or Ricky Seals-Jones, probably Curtis Samuel instead of running him back with Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson off of the Madison. So there are points. Everyone's going to be on Fournette today. Cool. Run Godwin or Antonio Brown with Jalen Waddle. I'm running a lot of Fournette in tournaments with Waddle because I'm using him with less, with a Minnesota stack. So I'm already getting off the chalk there. Barkley and Schultz to me is one of my favorite one-off, my mini stacks. You run them with a Minnesota stack or run them with a Green Bay stack. Take one of your chalkier stacks of the week and run Barkley Schultz because everyone's using the Giants passing game and Zeke and Cooper and Lamb, but no one's using Schultz and no one's using Barkley. So do that. And, everyone's using Derrick Henry and Laviska Shenault and Marvin Jones. So go the other way. Robinson and AJ Brown. That's leverage right there.
Yeah, and also too I think more here's some more reasons to use Barkley as well that I came across. The Cowboys defense numbers wise looks like one of the top run defenses, but it's a little. I think it's very, very skewed. I think it's skewed from the standpoint of the way of who they've played and how their games have gone. The Eagles only ran it twice against them. They played Tampa, who basically doesn't run the ball. But if you dig a little deeper, the Cowboys are allowing 4.74 yards per carry. So that's definitely a red flag there. And also, too, which this one I love because this goes back a couple of years now with how with the coach. So far this year, the Cowboys have are tied for allowing the most receptions to running backs with 33. And that's important because of their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, who all the years that people loved attacking pass-catching running backs against the Falcons, Quinn was the head coach.
That's
so, I think
that's beautiful analysis. I love it.
I think there's a lot there with Barkley to love, especially that, we've seen the improvement in his game the past couple of weeks. He's basically not coming off the field. His snap share is as high as ever. His usage is getting there, and he's starting to show that spark and that burst again. And before you know it, I think you're going to see Barkley at 8,500, and you're going to look and think, wow, 7,300. What a steal that was.
My most rostered running tournaments this week are Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley. And I love the Dan Quinn correlation because I was running running backs, pass catching running backs against Atlanta before Bankster DFS was even a thing. When I was working back at the Fake Football with Chet, like back when I started, like I've been doing that before you knew who I was, before I knew what Bankster, like it's crazy. And it's so cool that you picked up on that. And like, I didn't even make the correlation with the Dan Quinn, but it makes so much sense now why Dallas is so bad against pass catching running backs. Speaking of pass catchers, pivoting a little bit, Zach has a question about Fields and Allen Robinson with Renfro in a tournament. I'm not opposed to it. It's going to be way out of left field, and look at that, what I did there with Field. It's way out of left field, and it's not probable to pay off. But if it does, you're going to be the only one who has that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I have no problem with that in a tournament.
Yeah.
Not as a single bullet. You've got to be running 10 or more lineups for this to make sense.
I mean, if you're making a lot of lineups, sure, one Fields is okay. I mean, I'm not going there with Fields today. I'm just not doing it. I do like though the Robinson Renfro mini stack if you use that with no Fields.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Robinson eventually is going to get the squeaky wheel treatment, whether it's this week, like we saw with what Robert Woods did. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to come along. Robinson's too good to really be held down, and his price is getting so depressed that, I mean, him having a 20-point output at this point would be so nice for where his prices come down to. So he's going to get there. So I think a Robinson Renfro like mini run back in a tournament, even without Fields, would be has a lot of potential.
Yes, I agree with that completely. Matt is taking down $100,000 tournament today because of us, he says. So let's hope so, Big Matt. Just remember the little guys when you do that. Just remember the little guys. We got you there. As long assuming it's probably what he probably do is, okay, who does Doug like? Run the other thing. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Who did they randomly mention, or who did Doug say to sit? That's the guy we run. Najee Harris for all the money. Matt wants to know what's up about Max Williams, in or out. It's a late game, Matt, so there's no inactives of it. You're gonna have to keep an eye out for that. What I would do is put Max in the lineup, and if he's inactive, I would pivot to Dwelly or another cheaper tight end in the late window. That to me is the best way to go about it. You can't pivot to Schultz. You can pivot to Evan Ingram. I believe they're the exact same price. I think they're both $3,200. Max Williams might actually be 34. Let's see. Williams is 34. So you can pivot to, if you put Williams in and he's inactive, you can pivot to Hooper, Ingram, who I have no problem with, or Dwelly at 2,700. Those would be your pivot points. I think that makes sense. Gutta, how would you play that if you want to play Max Williams? Is that kind of where you'd run it?
Yeah, I mean,
put him in and pivot if he's inactive.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys that make the most sense. If you don't have any leftover money and just kind of a one versus one thing. I mean, because you need to leave a lot left on the table to move up to Schultz at that point. So yeah, I mean that would be the best way to play. I mean, it's pretty easy, Ingram or Dwelly. Yeah,
who do you prefer in that respect in a tournament? I assume it's a tournament because I don't think Matt's using Williams and Cash. He usually runs.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, it's tough.
I mean,
tough, right?
I think too. I think a one versus one Ingram may have a little more upside, but I think too it depends on what your roster construction looks like. Do you have any exposure to the Dallas Cowboy game in that lineup? Do you need any more exposure to it based on your other lineups? Does that lineup already have like if you have Max Williams in there, is it for the purpose because you're using Kyler Murray and you're kind of stacking San Fran, Arizona? So does it even make sense to add Dwelly into it then? I think it depends what the roster construction looks like or what you're looking for out of that spot. If it's not just simply I'm using Max Williams as the punt because that's the money I had left over for tight end.
Yeah. Again, I think it definitely depends upon what the rest of your lineup looks like. I think Gutta makes a great point there. It can't just be it's never just a 1v1. Yeah. It's always what else is happening with your lineup. I'm throwing up my cash lineup on the screen right now. As we are coming to a close, we allude to it. And at this point, I have no problem sharing the lineup of where I'm at. And then Gutta, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing yours, if you have decided on one. where your head's at on that. So I'm going to leave that up to you if you want me to post yours or if you want to just kind of discuss where we're at with this. I've also forgot who I have. Oh, it's right, Laviska Shenault. That's that. I'm at here at $4,800. You know what you'll notice here, as I did come off my cash core. Trey Lance was part of my cash core, but you know the way things worked out, it just made more sense to go in this direction. I like Madison more than Damian Williams for cheaper, and I do think that Daniel Jones with the roster percentage. When I made that cash core on Wednesday, and you know even up until yesterday, I thought Lance would be more rostered than Daniel Jones. But you know, watching a lot of videos, watching a lot of industry people, and just reading what's on Twitter, more people are going with Jones. So I'm going to take the chalk there, and a great matchup. I don't feel like I'm getting a step down, and so this is the cash lineup that I am running on DraftKings. FanDuel is mostly the same. I've got Kyler Murray in my FanDuel lineup. Houston defense had to punt. I think I'm going Dwelly on FanDuel, and Damian Williams, I couldn't get up to Madison. He was priced up a little bit. But same basic core of Henry, Adams, Keenan Allen, Laviska Shenault. I mean, Leonard Fournette. Those guys aren't changing for me. That's where I'm at. Do you remember the mini stacker you talked about? Was it Robinson, Renfro? Was that the?
It was Robinson, Renfro. If you want, you know, at the lower price, Mooney's got a pretty high ceiling as well because he's a deep threat. If you wanted to spend down on two guys, but my preference would be Renfro, Robinson.
Don't forget too that Justin Fields seems to love Darnell Mooney.
He does. Targets. They have a good connection.
And so that might actually, you know, Robinson will probably be lower rostered. People are really down on Robinson, but if you want the upside, Mooney might actually make some sense there. So I threw out some stuff about you doing cash. Do you want to throw your cash? Have you made a decision on cash? Do you know where you're going yet, or are you still debating?
I'm throwing the Daniel Jones into the debate as well. I mean, if I use Daniel Jones, I mean, my lineup's going to look the same as yours, just with Deonte instead of Keenan Allen. Okay. And then even on if I went Trey Lance, basically it would be Deonte in there as well. I'd probably move up to Dwelly, but it's more or less the same. I mean, really, I think my decision now is basically at a 1-versus-1 Lance versus Daniel Jones.
Gotcha. And you'd use so your line. So this is basically the core that we're both locked in on right here, and it's just quarterback, tight end, and where it's either Keenan Allen or Deonte Johnson, depending upon where your preference lies.
Yeah. And even because I
not use Deonte Johnson.
Yeah, and even like the tight end thing, like yes, technically it's Daniel Jones and Seals Jones versus Lance and Dwelly, but realistically, when you're down at that price point on tight ends, to me, there's no difference between Dwelly and Seals Jones. They're the exact same thing, just at a different price. So really, it really does come down to a 1v1 of Lance versus Jones then.
It makes a difference. It makes a difference when this happens. Pull him up here. Wow, I gotta dig deep. Makes a difference there when this is your punt.
I know.
One target last week. What the hell, Tommy time? I don't think either of those guys should be in danger. I think the offense involves the tight end a lot more, and they are the clear starters, Seals Jones and Dwelly. And I do agree that they're both the same. I'm just I jest.
But I mean, it's just I know, but it's that thing. It's they both should have similar snap shares. They should be getting targets. Like it's not like it's we're all right. We could pay up for $3,000 for a guy that has a role, but we're hoping the guy stepping in for injury is going to have a role. We know Dwelly and Seals Jones are both going to be involved. So at their prices, it's kind of like the same thing.
Totally agree. All right, Gutta, we've made it to the end. We have survived another week with, and we actually disagreed on something, which is unlike us, particularly in cash. We've been so locked in. Maybe that's what we need. We need a little disagreement in our lives. Folks, thanks for joining us. If you are interested, which you should be in being a member of Bankster DFS for under $4 a week, come on now. We have so much content for under $4 a week. BanksterDFS.com/subscribe, $3.99 a week. While you're here at YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Click the notification icon. Thank you for all the comments. The comments make the show better. The more you guys comment, the less it's just us rambling about what we want to hear. And, it forces us to look at things that we might not be tunnel visioned on. You know, we are very tunnel visioned when we make our lineups and our picks. So, you know, talking Najee Harris is great for us. Talking the Bears offense is great for us. So thank you all for coming in and helping out with that. You know, have a great day. Have a great week. Check back every single day. We have articles and videos and pools and all that good stuff for Michael Guttadero at the Big Gutta, who will not be with us next week. He will be living the life, bachelor party city next week. So he's getting married at the end of the year, which congrats on that. And we will, you know, we'll see you in 2 weeks, Gutta, but you'll see this face multiple times this week. Videos, you just hear my voice. Live streams for members, and next week maybe maybe Shawnee will be joining us, or maybe it's just me rambling with you guys filling in the chat. I've outroed long enough. Banksterdfs.com. Later.